So about a year ago, it was Good Friday, not last one, the one before, I got an email from Christine Valters-Paintner from Abbey of the Arts. And she told me she was writing a book about Mary and would I set the Magnificat into song. And if it had been anybody else, I would have said, I can't do that. I can't do that. But it was Christine. And I knew that she wouldn't ask me to do this if she didn't think I could do it justice. And secondly, I realised that I had been hunting for a Magnificat song and I hadn't found one, the one that we used in the meditation earlier. Her heart beat in time with my wings is beautiful, but it doesn't actually have the content of the Magnificat in it. So I understood why she was asking for this, and I don't know why, but I said yes to this enormous task. I started by just looking to art and poetry and music and trying to find music that captured the Magnificat in people's imagination over the centuries. And I did find a few things that were helpful. Here's Annunciation, which is a wonderful poem by Denise Levertov. This is traditionally used in Advent, and I actually used this for Advent, so you might recognize this, but I'm going to go through it again. It tells the story of the angel Gabriel coming to the young girl Mary. We know the scene, the room, variously furnished. Almost always a lectern, a book, always a tall lily. Arrived on solemn grandeur of great wings, the angelic ambassador, standing or hovering, whom she acknowledges a guest. But we're told of meek obedience. No one mentions courage. The engendering spirit did not enter her without consent. God waited. She was free to accept or to refuse, choice integral to humanness. Aren't there annunciations of one sort or another in most lives? Some unwillingly undertake great destinies, enact them with sullen pride, uncomprehending. More often those moments when roads of light and storm open from darkness in a man or a woman are turned away from in dread, in waves of weakness, in despair, and with relief. And ordinary lives continue. God does not smite them, but the gates close, the pathway vanishes. She had been a child who played, ate, slept like any other child, but unlike others, wept only for pity, laughed in joy, not triumph. Compassion and intelligence fused in her, indivisible. Called to a destiny more momentous than any in all of time, she did not quail, only asked a simple, "How can this be?" and gravely, courteously, took to heart the angel's reply, the astounding ministry she was offered. To bear in her womb infinite weight and lightness, to carry in hidden, finite inwardness 9 months of eternity, to contain in slender rays of being the sum of power, in narrow flesh the sum of light. Then to bring to birth, push out into air a man-child needing, like any other, milk and love, but who was God. This was the moment no one speaks of, when she could still refuse, a breath unbreathed, spirit suspended, waiting. She did not cry, "I cannot, I am not worthy, nor I have not the strength." She did not submit with gritted teeth, raging, coerced. Bravest of all humans, consent illumined her The room filled with light, the lily glowed in it, and the iridescent wings. Consent, courage unparalleled, opened her utterly. And that, I think, was the first thing that began to catch my attention, that underneath the Magnificat, there was a really important truth. Here's a modern setting of the Magnificat by Joy Cowley. My soul sings in gratitude. I'm dancing in the mystery of God. The light of the Holy One is within me, and I am blessed, so truly blessed. This goes deeper than human thinking. I am filled with awe at love whose only condition is to be received. The gift is not for the proud, for they have no room for it. The strong and self-sufficient ones do not have this awareness. But those who know their emptiness can rejoice in love's fullness. It's the love that we are made for, the reason for our being. It fills our inmost heart space and brings to birth in us the Holy One. Now, if you haven't ever come across the original Magnificat from the Gospels, do a little Google search, because it's very interesting. Mary's prophecy about what is to come. But even with these two poems and all the art that I'd found, Mary was still too lily white, too unanimated. She wasn't wild or earthy enough for me. And part of the reason I know this is because I'm Scottish, and we call Bridget, Saint Bridget, or Goddess Bridget, the Mary of the Gales. And she is magical and cunning and innocent and spunky and full of animism and life. And I wasn't seeing that in the art that I first came across. And I think this was an awareness that wasn't just in me and in other artists, because over time I found more and more images appearing, more artwork, like that amazing piece by Rosales that I shared earlier. So there's something about the Sacred Mother, Earth Mother, birther of the cosmos, that I wanted to see in the Virgin Mary. And the Christian tradition just wasn't doing it. So I thought, to hell with you, I'm just going to write the song anyway. And then as I wrote the song, after I'd done it, I found more art and pictures, and clearly I'm not the first person to have had this opinion. So here's what I think is wrong, is in the Christian tradition, the heart of the sacred is placed entirely in Jesus, and it's made in a way that's quite unappealing and swathed in guilt. I've got some images for us about this. So I don't know if you've come across this, but especially in the Catholic tradition, the heart of the sacred is really, really important. And is often, I just did a quick search this morning and I found all these images. I quite like this one. I mean, that doesn't look like Jesus to me, but I like it. And often it's there's a crucifix and thorns, and sometimes it's quite gory like that. And I heard Caroline Mice talking about this, and she was saying that she grew up Catholic and she could not stand this image. She hated it, and she didn't get it. It was like, what is this? And then all of a sudden she realized it was the heart of the sacred. She turned the Sacred Heart into the heart of the sacred. This is a compassion mandala from Robert Lenz, which I think is part of that. Oh, this is about birthing all of life. let me share some other images that I found really helpful. This one is by Heather McLean, and it's called Moat. She's a tattoo artist, actually. And I love this, the Sacred Heart, with that young guy protecting it. Look how enormous it is. I love that picture. I've spent a lot of time just looking at it. And then one of my patrons, I do a lot of work online on a platform called Patreon. Some of you are part of that, thank you. And one of my patrons sent me this, which is from Big Sur Monastery. And you've got the Californian landscape behind and the sea and Mother Mary with her heart. And there was something about this particular icon that really gave birth to what I heard Caroline Miss saying about the heart of the sacred. And this is on my altar just over there. And when I tell people that I am setting an altar for them, it always is in front of this icon that I pray with every day. And in my mind, I reach out to touch her heart in my mind. And it feels very, very holy. And recently, the same person who sent me the last icon sent me this beautiful icon that I've been using as I pray with the graves. I don't know if you know this, but a bunch of graves were found in an Indian residential school in British Columbia, and there were, I think, 250 of these schools where innocent children were taken away from their families and neglected and exposed to diseases. And this is a horrible, horrible story of human brokenness and genocide, cultural and physical genocide. And I don't know, it's so awful that it's hard for me to pray with it. But here, there's the Sacred Heart again. And let me tell you about this. This is by Andre Prevost, and it's called Siska Immaculate Heart of Mary. Beautiful icon. Yeah. So there's something about Mother Mary and the heart of the Christ consciousness. Remember, Christ isn't Jesus' last name. It's a way of being. And there was something about praying with Mary that really opened me to deepen in my understanding of what the Sacred Heart is. At Easter, I was recording the Magnificat, the recording that you heard earlier. I was creating the cello and the piano part. And meanwhile, I'm listening to an audiobook by Andrew Harvey called Son of Man, and another one, Heart of the Sacred, I think it's called. Andrew Harvey has a lot to teach about how Christianity cannot actually come alive if you don't hold reverence for Mary, that she is, through her, you access the heart of the cosmos. And he's a very interesting one. He had been a disciple of a guru. He's very much an interfaith person. And my computer's about to die. Andrew Harvey, very interesting guy. So he, interfaith man, grew up in India, has a very posh English accent, and he's a gay guy. And his guru told him that he could not achieve enlightenment unless he left his beloved husband. And not surprisingly, Andrew Harvey wasn't having any of this. And he left following that guru, and he shared this, and the guru denied it, and he started getting death threats, and they had like dead snakes posted their apartment. It was, when he describes how awful it was and how much hatred he received, I know this was a while ago, it was terrible time in his life. And in that time he had an encounter with Mother Mary and started following this thread that brought him solace and healing when he was broken to his knees. And he describes going to, I think it's in Belgium, a field where there had been a sighting of Mother Mary, and a lot of people go there to try and meet Mother Mary. And he said he got there with his husband, and it was heavily raining and about to be dark, and it was the most depressing scene ever. It was just a field full of broken people looking for healing. And in that moment, he understood the love with which Mother Mary pours out on all of these people, whether they are the abuser or the abused. It's a beautiful story. It's in the book Son of Man. Highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more about the aspect of the Christ that can only be birthed through a devotion and connection to Mother Mary. And I have to say, it's really important for me and for Andrew Harvey as well, which is this matricide that we are doing, this environmental destruction, this way of consuming and controlling and destroying our planet needs to change. And we don't know necessarily how to change. We're needing that sacred presence of Mary, who for me is part of the greening force of life. Yeah, very interesting. So I found all that out after I'd written the Magnificat. So let me play it for you. My soul shall praise and magnify you, Lord. Yes, I will come. Yes, I have come. I hear your voice is calling out my name into my life. You shall be born. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Proud cannot hear beyond their words, their thoughts enclosed, so stale and old. The rich cannot receive what they don't own, this emptiness, the spaciousness. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Spread out the feast, let those in hunger come. Your face be shown, your love made known. The humble hear your voice, with you they sing. Magnificat, Magnificat, Magnificat. Magnificat, Magnificat, Magnificat. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Reach out to touch the world that is to come. Magnificat, 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 Magnificat. Magnificat means magnify. And that body prayer for me, which isn't just about icons, it's not just about me reaching my heart to touch the heart held in the icon. It's also about me reaching into the divinity in all beings, in the tree in front of me, in you if we were in the coffee shop and you were sitting in front of me, in the milk and the coffee, in all things, in all things. So why do I think that the Magnificat and Mother Mary are so central to birthing Christianity now in this time? Now the way that I'm going to do this, I hope this is okay, I've given it consideration, is actually an indigenous story. It's a Mohawk story, but it's on Wikipedia, and I feel that it's so publicly known that it's ethical for me to share that with you as a Scottish person that doesn't have 1 ounce of indigenous blood in me. There's a story about the peacemaker. He came in his white canoe over to the Iroquois tribes. There were 50 dispersed tribes that were sometimes warring with each other, and the peacemaker brought the way of peace. And at first they really didn't like him or trust him. Let me read what it says on Wikipedia. According to some legends, initially the Mohawk rejected the message of the great peacemaker, so he decided to perform a feat to demonstrate his purity and spiritual power. After climbing a tree high above, the peacemaker told the Mohawk warriors to chop down the tree. And they watched as the peacemaker disappeared into swirling rapids of the Mohawk River. And they believed that he had died, but the next morning they found him sitting near the campfire. And this was the sign that they took, and they welcomed him in and his teachings. But what your Wikipedia doesn't say about that, which an elder told me, a Mohawk chief, was that the people were not able to take on the new way until Hiawatha arrived. Hiawatha, who was a figure of history and also cloaked in myth. The great leader Hiawatha, whose wife and children had been murdered, and he was devastated, and he wandered in the forest, a broken person, for a long time, wanting the trees to swallow up him. But when he emerged, he had the ability to bring condolences to the people, to soften the lump of stone in their throat, to take the chest, the plate of metal off their chest, to open their ears to hear music again, and wipe clear the tears so that they could see. I remember crying my eyes out. Actually, I mopped them up in this little bit of deerskin that is round. This is a piece of my old guitar. It was a very powerful teaching. And for me, that's why Mother Mary is needed to understand the Christ consciousness. This young girl who's so brave, and this woman who watched her son die, that is able to hold all our sorrow. She is the bringer of condolences so that we can be seen, so that we can be healed, so that we can come forward and do our work on our shadow to really show up as a loving presence and not be looking for the love ourselves. I think that is why the Magnificat and Christianity need Mother Mary. So in summary, I highly recommend that you delve into Andrew Harvey's teachings or the Magnificat. And for me, in getting to know this song and the one that I sang with Trudy earlier, Requiem, Mary is in the mystery close to me. I touch her sacred heart, and when I pray to her, I feel able to really bring the suffering of the world into my own heart in a way, rather than being overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. And my prayer is this. I wrote this in an article recently. Let me find it. I pray that those who listen to the Magnificat and love the song will meet the Sacred Mother just as I did, and be transformed and strengthened by her divine ferocity and unwavering compassion. Amen. Thank you for listening. My soul shall praise and magnify you, Lord. Yes, I will come. Yes, I have come. I hear your voice is calling out my name into my life. You shall be born. All generations praise to hold with me the Sacred Heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Proud cannot hear beyond their words, their thoughts enclosed, so stale and old. The rich cannot receive what they don't own. This emptiness, the spaciousness. All generations praise to hold with me the Sacred Heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Spread out the feast, let those in hunger come. Your face be shown, your love made known. The humble hear your voice, with you they sing. Magnificat, Magnificat. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Reach out to touch the world that is to come. Magnificat, 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 Magnificat.